I have never wanted to walk out of the movie so much in my entire life. "50 Shades of Fucked Up." This is why America is failing the world in terms of literature. This movie was so dumb. I had American Sniper playing across the hall and Kingsman playing right next door, and I still sat through this 2-hour piece of shit. Fuck, this was dumb. I know no one has ever lost money underestimating the taste of the American public, and I know that everyone knows that this movie is going to be shit, but god damn it! You know when you feel really, really self-conscious because you did something really, really stupid? Well, that was me for about 4 hours before, during, and after watching this thing. Jesus Christ. When I go to the theater, I carry this moleskin around with me so I can take notes. Usually, the movies only end up with only 2 pages of notes. This one resulted in 6. I mean, we all knew I was going to eventually do this movie on The Book Was Better, but now I'm thinking I'm going to have to do a 2-parter on it. Ugh, God, I haven't even started on the movie. 50 Reasons to Hate People. So I won't even talk about this movie having an actual story. It's a semi-romance between 2 people highlighted entirely by their sex lives. And of course, by this point, everyone knows 50 Shades of Grey started out as a Twilight fanfiction, and it really shows. You have the 2 main characters, Anna and Christian. Anna is virginal, clumsy, and bites her lip a lot. Sound like anyone? Christian is blunt, intimidating, and has kind of a stalker streak about him. Sound familiar? Oh my god, when are we gonna stop making movies out of these things? And the entire goddamn thing just plays off like a parody of itself. The movie's set in Washington State. They're not even trying to hide what they're ripping off. So right off the bat, the whole thing just falls completely on its face. The movie starts with Anna Steele going in to interview Christian Grey, the hot young billionaire playboy that everyone wants. And immediately, he seems to have some sort of bizarre attraction to her, even though I have no idea what it is. I mean, they try to pretend that there's some sort of a chance at a loving relationship here, and he does it several times, say that she is affecting him and changing him who he is. But there's no chemistry! Any chance of romantic chemistry is lost every time that Christian opens his mouth, or any time that he tries to recite one of his goddamn rules. Oh, and he has 100 goddamn rules that Anna must follow, or else she gets punished. For example, Anna's not allowed to touch him, he doesn't have to answer any of her goddamn questions, and he's able to shut himself off emotionally. This is not a healthy relationship! This is abuse! Oh, even when Christian's not around, Anna's not allowed to smoke, she's not allowed to drink, she has to go to the doctors that he prescribes, and he has to completely monitor her food intake. And she just goes along with it like a whipped bitch. Look, I'm sorry to use that term, but come on, let's think of it literally. Christian barely scratches the surface in terms of having any character growth. He has some sort of a troubled past, but it doesn't really reveal that much here. Doesn't really excuse him being a douche. And of course, Anna's so completely overwhelmed by all the changes going on around her that she just completely gives in and gives Christian whatever the hell he wants. There is a scene where his chauffeur steals her car, he sells it, and buys a new one for her. You don't do that in any relationship. This is abuse! I mean, the movie tries to play off the relationship as if there is a chance at something deep and meaningful. But every single thing Christian does is just for sex. That is not love. That is not a relationship. That is not healthy. He just wants to tie her up in his playroom and screw her all day. Or as Christian says in the movie, he doesn't make love, he fucks. Hard. Oh, God, and that's just the start of all the problems. Half the dialogue is either ripped straight out of Twilight, or it's been written in such a way that it advances the plot while completely destroying any chance of realism. And that's just when they're not being inconsistent. For example, there's a scene early on in which Christian reveals that he doesn't sleep with women. They sleep in their own beds, and he sleeps elsewhere in another room. But in an earlier scene, Anna wakes up in Christian's bed after having passed out drunk, and Christian reveals that he was actually sleeping in bed next to her. You're contradicting yourself! And these scenes aren't spanned far apart. There's like a 10-minute difference between them. Oh, and there's one scene in the middle where Anna asks Christian to try to be a little more romantic, and he says, "That's not really my thing. Try to keep an open mind." Fucking hypocrite. I mean, this guy's so controlling and so needy that the only way that it could be any worse is if he actually put a tracking device on her. Does that happen in the sequels? Please tell me that doesn't happen in the sequels. That's too creepy. I mean, in every way that matters, this thing is Twilight. Bad characters, bad writing, bad plot. I mean, the only real difference here is that 50 Shades of Grey got rid of the vampires and the werewolves, the one thing Twilight had going for it, and replaced it with a bunch of uninteresting, poorly written sex scenes. And of course, I'm going to have to talk about the sex scenes. I mean, look, if you're into that kind of a thing, fine, whatever, everyone has their own kink. But for me, the sex scenes just started getting boring after a while. I mean, we have full-on nudity on screen, but by the third sex scene, I'm looking down at my pencil and thinking, I wonder how much it'll hurt to stab myself in the eye with this. I mean, the sex scenes get so boring, you just start looking around for other things to notice in the film. Case in point, there's a store called Peck and Paw. Why would you name a store after one of the most gruesome directors of all time? Within the context of the relationship, Christian says it'll only work if they're open and honest with one another. And while that's true, they only talk about sex. I mean, there's clearly no hope for anything deeper than that. So when the ending comes, there's no surprise. I can promise you guys, I'm going to do a full-on book was better review on this later. Oh shit, I'm going to have to see this again. This is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life. It's offensive, bad dialogue, bad plot, bad characters, bad relationship, and it highlights and celebrates abuse. Not the BDSM thing, of course, that's not a problem. But if you want to see BDSM done right, there's an old webcomic I used to read called Sunstone. It's about a pair of lesbians who try out a BDSM relationship and eventually develops into something a little more. Links in the description. And now I have a way for the guys to get into it. You're welcome, ladies. Now, if Anna and Christian were something like that, I would have a lot less to complain about. But as it stands, I'm gonna have to tear this goddamn thing apart. So, what's the final verdict on this piece of shit? Well, I won't say go see it on IMAX, don't see it in theaters at all, don't buy it, don't rent it, don't even try to ignore it and hope it goes away. Set this motherfucker on fire! So did you see 50 Shades of Grey? More importantly, did you see it willingly? What did you think? Whatever your thoughts, comment below and tell me about it. Oh, God. At least no one can say I don't suffer from my art. It's gonna be a miracle if I still have a voice by the time I'm 30.